call this meeting to order, and let's stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday, March 18th, 2026 Board of School Estimate Meeting. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. Notices announcing the date, time, and place for the special meeting were sent to all concerned individuals, associations, and posted on the district website in accordance with PL 2025, Chapter 72. At this time, I'd like to take the roll. Mayor Fagan?
Present.
Ms. Landman?
Present.
Ms. Lasaracina? Here. Ms. Cohn?
Here.
And Ms. Kelly? Here. Okay, we have a quorum.
At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Huff for a presentation of the budget.
Got it. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education, to the Board of School Estimates and Mayor Fagan, to the Summit Public School leadership, Summit Public School staff, and Summit residents. I am proud to be here tonight to present the fiscal year 27 tentative school budget. Why am I proud? Because this process started back in October, and it's the collective efforts of various stakeholders who understand what it's like to be fiscally responsible, efficient, and provide our students with the best experience in our schools as possible, commensurate with past times and future endeavors. Whether I was asking my administration throughout the last several months to drill down and really take a hard look at their budgets based on need, whether it's the Board of Education and their support and understanding what makes Summit Public Schools special, specifically the Operations Committee, who has done their due diligence, has evaluated data, trends, problem solved, and to the support of the community who want to maintain the excellence in our schools. The work has been done, and this proposed budget satisfies all of that. And it really boils down to our collective mission as a public school. And that is to prepare all students to thrive in an evolving world. Throughout this process, we kept this in mind because we wanted to maintain the excellence and we wanted to make sure that we prepare our students for the future and we don't compromise in anything that we do in this budget process. We did embark on our strategic plan this year. This is our 5-year mission statement, and we do have a facilities and finance goal. And as a committee, when we developed our finance goals, we had value statements, and I've shared this the last time. But I think it's important to note that we reflected on this and we kept this in mind as we developed our budget. We believe a robust and innovative curriculum and the needs of students should drive the budget. We believe facilities need to meet the students' needs while creating a welcoming and warm learning environment. And we believe there needs to be a thorough and transparent budget allocation process and analysis with fiscal responsibility. And we believe in recruiting and retaining top talent. It's essential for student success. And this budget does all of that. So who are we in Summit? We enjoy our high-ranking schools. Just a couple of years ago, one of our elementary schools was ranked #1 in the entire state of New Jersey. And all of our schools, including our high school, are consistently ranked in the top 5 or 10%. We talked about our quality staff. That's so important to us. That's really what makes Summit, the essence of who we are, is the great educators and people we have in this community to support our schools. And once again, without saying, and we say it over and over, but it's commitment to excellence. It just doesn't happen by chance. We are committed. This budget allows us to maintain the strengths, things that we do that our students define who they are. Several AP courses, opportunities for honors courses, national merit scholars, comprehensive curriculum, and of course our co-curriculars in the arts, which we have many offerings that so many % of our students participate in and grow and thrive in. So going into this budget process, we knew it wasn't going to be easy. There's going to be challenges and hurdles. It's not unique to Summit. The economic climate has changed, and this is the work we've been doing the last several months. And you've heard me say time and time again, the health benefits are one of the biggest drivers in this budget. Budgeting 19% increase of the health premiums. But we did our due diligence. We talked to our insurance broker. We had them shop around, see if there are alternatives to realize more savings than that. Same thing with property and casualty insurance. We don't just accept the rates, we dig deep. We talk to the brokers, we talk to consultants, similarly the way we did with our energy costs, to see where we can make savings in the futures. What plans can we have to realize savings down the road as well? And this year, through responsible budgeting, salaries and benefits, which we know often are out of our control, we really pressed and took a hard look at when people are leaving through attrition, whether it be retirement or moving on, do we really need that position in the budget anymore? Rather than just giving it as a granted position, things change, enrollment numbers change, subgroups of students change for services and the like. So we did that in this budget, and that's a very helpful way to realize some savings and be efficient in our decision making. Continuing in our homework to supplies and resources, this year I pressed the administration very hard to budget based on need, get closer to that zero-based budgeting process. In our special education, we're making some innovative decisions to provide programs in the schools that are realizing savings to the Board of Ed and the school district by having programs in school that otherwise would cost a lot of money to send them for out-of-district tuition and transportation. And as our goals tells us to commit, our facilities, multi-year maintenance plan and facilities plan, we know investing in our buildings and our facilities will pay in the long run and save us money down the line, as well as all the other operations and products that we need to do to cooperatives and potential shared services to realize savings in a budget. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy Sarno, Assistant Business Administrator.
A little shorter. Thank you, Mr. Huff. So as you can see here, the history of state aid has been an incline in the past couple of years. However, the last 2 years, we're experiencing a little bit of a decrease. It's a testament to our hard work that we're able to make this budget as efficient and as workable as possible with our decrease that we're starting to see. Hopefully this is not indicative of what's to come, but this is based on the state's school funding formula, and it's loosely based on enrollment and some other factors. However, it comes down to how much money Trenton has and how much they can give. So you can see the patterns here. We did experience a 3% reduction from the prior year, and we'll see what happens going forward. So that represents $5 million, which is up. And next is the history of health benefit costs. So as you can see, that's been there's an incline in that trend as well as with every other school district and every other place in the state and in the country. Health benefits is a big component of this budget. We have a significant cost this particular year, and it's only trajecting to be even higher and going up. So as Mr. Huff mentioned, we had shopped, we had asked our brokers to do their homework, we've asked them to find other quotes, we've asked them to compare ourselves to the state health benefit plans, see what it looks like, and in doing so, this is our increase. We had done other things throughout the years too. So, we talk about this year. However, in the past, there's a couple of things that have happened historically that's impacting us today. One of the notable things includes Chapter 44, which was implemented in fiscal year 2021. And what that is basically the state said, school districts have to provide certain plans to employees. They have to provide the plans, and actually anybody who's a new employee has to be part of these new plans. The plans are the Educator's Health Plan and the Garden State plans. And those plans, although great, they are less cost advantageous to the district. So what has happened is Chapter 44 has restricted us from experiencing more contributions from the employees, and we have seen stagnant employee contributions over the year when we should be seeing increases. It should be based on premiums, what it previously was based on, and now it's based on salaries, a percentage of a salary, and they're in single digits. So it's very, very small what we're seeing as far as contributions because of Chapter 44 and those health plans. So with that hurdle and with, we've been doing other things. So in 2023, fiscal year 2023, Summit joined the SHIF. So that's the School Health Insurance Fund. So we shopped around and we said, hey, okay, what can we do to better minimize our risk? And joining the SHIF, part of the SHIF is other school districts are also pooled with Summit, and what we can do is we can find savings and minimize any types of spikes that we have. Although it seems like it's trajecting up, and it does seem like a spike, so to speak, really that's the normal market right now, and it would have been higher should we have not been joined the SHIF. So that was a good thing for us. It's helped mitigate as much as we can. Health insurance is a huge portion of our budget, so it's a big factor. So any increases deeply impacts this budget. It's $16.5 million, and that represents 18% of our budget. Our revenue sources. So here represents all our revenue sources, from our local tax levy, which is our largest portion, to our state aid, which is another large component of our revenue stream. What those represent is pretty straightforward. Our local tax levy with this budget is proposed to go up $3.7 million to a total of $79.8 million, as you can see here. State aid represents $5 million as provided by the state, and as I mentioned, it was a 3% decrease from the prior year. And some other noteworthy revenue sources includes extraordinary aid, which we get a large portion. We've seen a decline in the trends of collecting from extraordinary aid, so that's why you see a decrease in there. And what that represents is funding from the state with respect to our special education population. Some other noteworthy sources of revenue include capital reserve and maintenance reserve. So what those numbers represent are withdrawals from our reserves in the tune of $850,000 for capital reserve and $50,000 for maintenance reserve. Those reserves are what the $850,000, a big portion of that represents the hot water heater replacement and new generator over in the middle school and the high school. So those are reserves that represent not only monies for in case there's something that happens unexpectedly or emergency items, but they also are representative of planned expenditures that we have in the future that are too large to absorb within our regular general budget. And as you can see at the bottom, the total budgeted revenues for this upcoming year is $90 million and $90.5 million. Our fiscal year 27 expenses breakdown in terms of the general fund, here it is represented in the dollar. So 85% represents salaries and related benefits. So that's a large portion of our budget. And even though it just says salaries and benefits, that means so much more than just salaries and benefits. What that means is classroom teachers. What that means is classroom aides. What that means is support staff for our students. What that means is not just support staff, the guidance counselors, the custodians, all of those people that make Summit who we are. So even though it just looks like $1 and it just looks like 85%, that represents so much more. It represents what our district is made of, and it's very important. So it represents every single person that works so hard, administrators, like I said, classroom teachers, custodians, maintenance crew, secretaries, you name it. It's what makes Summit Summit, and it's great that most of that, our dollar is going towards that. And you can see the smaller buckets on the bottom. You can go ahead and read. It's 5% facilities, capital projects, et cetera. So those smaller pieces make up the rest of our budget. Special education tuition is noteworthy as an expense. And the other 3% and 2% you can see here. So the numbers. Now, this represents our local tax levy in the current year as well as the last fiscal year. So in the current year, we are proposing a 4.93% increase, which is, I mentioned before, $3.7 million, which brings us to $79,873,363 for our new local tax levy for the fiscal year 26-27. What that means to the average home and the average assessed home, based on our calculations, is $445,100 as an average home. Based on that, the annual impact is $344. So you can see there. I'll pass it on to Mr. Huff.
Thank you, Kathy. One more quick comment about the capital reserve and the $850,000 for the generator at the middle school. It is critical that we replace that. All of our IT is located in the middle school, and in addition, it's also a warming station. So when we partner with the city during emergencies, it's important that we have that backup power, and it's time to replace it. So what's in that 4.93%? If you take a look at this graphic, it clearly details it. 2.88% of that is due to the healthcare premium increase. And quite frankly, that's a pretty good rate compared to some of our colleagues around the state. You certainly don't want it to be that high, but it is. And then if you take a look at the right side, all of our other expenses and operating costs are 2.05%, which is even very close to that 2% that a lot of people have in the back of their mind about how we're supposed to increase a budget. Unfortunately, as we have these discussions and we've seen the trends over the last several years, it's likely that we're not in that environment anymore, and we probably haven't been for quite some time. So this graphic certainly tells you that we've done the work. All of those stakeholders that I've mentioned to you have done the work to present this 4.93%. And some of the highlights of this budget in doing so is we're able to reinstate the summer program at the high school, summer school. So students who need credit recovery, they can have that credit recovery course taught by our own very staff, which we know yields the best outcomes. This will be a tuition-based program. If parents need their child to take a credit recovery, they'll pay a small tuition, and we'll be able to deliver that course instruction with our own staff. We're bringing back PSATs in the school. I know that's going to make a lot of people very happy. So we're able to do that in this budget. We're also able to extend our ABA program into the high school. By doing so, we'll have several students and the benefits are this: they get to stay in their neighborhood school with their peers. It's the least restrictive environment, which is required by law, and we will save over $700,000 by not having added district tuition and transportation costs by creating this program in-house. And new coming up this year, continuing with our rigor, we're going to be implementing a new phonics program, K-2. That'll be part of our instruction and professional development next year. And in closing, again, some details about how we enjoy the successes in school here. Our seniors take at least one AP exam, 73% of them. 70% of our seniors scored a 3 or higher on at least one AP exam, and 9% of seniors took 5 or more AP exams. We celebrated last month 25 National Merit Scholars. We're very proud of that. And just last year, and then again highlighted today on the Department of Education, our elementary world language program was named a model program by the State Department of Education. They came out, they did an audit, they did a visit, evaluated us against many other districts across the state, and named us a model district. And of course, as you see every year with our assessment report, we're proud of it. 80% of our students scored at or above grade level in standards which far exceed some of our peer districts and certainly the state. So in closing, very happy to present this budget. I thank everyone for all the hard work that went into this. You know, common goals, common values, and common objectives allow us to present this budget to you and maintain the excellence in our schools that we expect for our students. And at this point, I'll invite BOSE back up to the dais so we can have a discussion if there's any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Huff. Thank you to Kathy. At this time, I'd welcome discussion from the Board of School Estimate dais. Anybody have questions or comments? No questions or comments? I've got a couple. So thank you. That was a terrific presentation. Couple of things. One, I think for several years prior to last year, we talked about this a little bit last year, the budget increase was kind of under that 2% that we talk about a lot. And I just, for the public's perspective, I think it's important to talk about, in hindsight, would you say that, that sort of maybe overly conservative, maybe the conservative perspective of going under that 2%, would that maybe have contributed to kind of what we've talked about the past 2 years where the budget is increasing by more than that 2%?
I'll definitely comment on that, and Kathy, certainly jump in if you want. But yes, amongst other variables, not maximizing your budget year over year will have a compounding effect that eventually will cause you to have to elevate it larger in one given year. Whereas if we realize those increases in the budget for the last several years, the increase today wouldn't be as large. But as you've seen, there's other variables and drivers in the budget that also contribute to the current climate that we're in.
Thank you.
And if I add, it's a very different landscape. Myself, I've been here for 9 years and I haven't seen such large increases in health insurance. The salary negotiation levels are at a different level than it was in those years that we all could remember when it was below the 2% and even at 0%. So it is a very different landscape. The costs are so astronomically different post-COVID world. And even though it was 2020, the effects don't take place until a couple years after that. So we're seeing it now. Healthcare has changed dramatically from the drugs that are offered and the level of healthcare that's tapped into. So it's very different.
Thank you.
Happy to see that the PSAT is back on a school day. I know a couple of residents actually came to council last night to express their interest in that returning into the budget. So happy to see that. I did have a question that's related. The PSAT coming back into school, to me, that's an access issue, and it's very important that we give our students that access. I'm concerned about the recovery for credits over summer school and just getting a sense of how much that's going to cost in terms of tuition.
Well, the high school administration did an analysis, and we modeled after some other districts who already employ this model. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's somewhere between $300 and $400 for credit recovery, and there is a minimum number of enrollment that we have to run that course. All of that will be communicated through the high school administration, actually in the very near future, so families can make plans accordingly.
And just to build on that, is there a discount, if you will, for free and reduced?
Yes, as we do with everything we offer, there's a discount for free and reduced students who qualify.
Any other questions? Jacqueline?
Thanks very much, Superintendent Huff and Kathy. This is, I think, finds the right point of productive tension between acknowledging that the tax levy is potentially an affordability issue for our taxpayers and making appropriate investments in the school. So really appreciate the work that you and your teams have done and all of our school leadership. In addition to the PSATs in summer school and speaking with neighbors, two of the other cuts from the last budget cycle that kind of rose to the top on the list of concerns was with respect to mental health supports for our middle school and high school students in particular, as well as with computer science. Just thinking about artificial intelligence and a tech-forward economy. And I understand that there has already been work that's been done for the current school year to try to be proactive in investing in creative ways in those areas in particular. So wondering if you could just speak briefly about what has been done and what may be planned for the next year.
So last year's budget did require some cuts, so to speak, for staffing and getting that tax levy down, and that did include the mental health clinician. So what we're doing at the end of this year, I'm going to be asking my team to evaluate something like the mental health clinician and anything with computer science, so that we weren't able to reintroduce with this budget to determine if we can in future budgets. We recognize the value, but in the interim, we have skilled staff in our counseling department, our child study teams who have picked up those services. So that's the evaluation that we're going to have. How much more help do we need in that, which is a changing climate as well. Those needs and demands are growing. Interestingly, with the AI and computer science, we are in a push right now to take a look at screen time and what is the healthy balance of having students use the technology in the classroom, including AI, which I don't think anybody has the answer of where that's going yet, but we have come together as an administrative team and talked about what it looks like for us now and in the future, and we recently passed an AI policy with our technology that I'm sure will change multiple times over the next couple of years.
Great, thank you. Just one additional question at the moment. I believe the answer is no, but just to confirm, the proposed budget does not include any cuts to existing headcount.
Correct.
Correct.
There's no reduction in force. It's only through attrition and through need. If there's a need based on changing enrollment numbers for subgroups or services, that's just efficient and responsible budgeting.
Great, thank you.
I want to just add one piece, because the Ed Committee has been looking at this technology, screen times, as Superintendent mentioned, as well as AI. There's a lot of mixed evidence on the benefits of these things, and so we are being really cautious. I know the Ed Committee is doing a big evaluation on this before introducing any new tool, especially to children. We want to really validate that. So I don't think we're going to have an answer tomorrow or this year, but there's probably some creative ways we can pilot things. But we certainly aren't going to, make an investment in the budget until we're really certain that the effects of AI are going to be positive on our children.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'd like to go back just to talk about the summer school and PSAT. So why was that removed last year? Why couldn't we have done, is there a reason that we couldn't have done a tuition-based summer school as an example last year? And so what's the difference between last year?
Last year, if you recall the timing of when we had to lower the tax levy in the budget, there wasn't enough time to create. Our administrative team have spent many, many weeks developing this. It's not anything we could have just stumbled into last year with success, right? Everything we do, we want to be effective and successful. So it wasn't an opportunity last year, but it is now moving forward.
Thank you. So a couple of things on that. One is I want to thank the administrative staff. I know a lot of you are here, and I know that Scott asked you to sharpen your pencil many times this year, and I'm grateful, and I think that the process led, I think, by Rick Hanley as the chair of ops was a longer, more transparent, more interactive, and sort of earlier onset discussion. So I think that led probably to a better outcome. So I just want to say I'm very grateful to that, and to Rick, thank you. Scott, I know that this was not easy. I know last year wasn't easy, but I feel like the process this year was a better process. We learned a lot last year. So I think this outcome is as a result of that.
Agreed.
Good. And then I guess one other question I have, and we talked about this, and I already warned Scott I was going to ask this, so I'm not putting him on the spot, but what would it look like for us to have a budget that was a 3% or a 4% budget as opposed to where we are right now?
So going into this budget year, I actually created a good 6 or 7 scenarios and what that impact would be for our community, not knowing where state aid would be, not knowing where the health insurance would be. And if we had to take that next step, for example, 1 percentage point in our increase is about $870,000. And the only way everybody knows that you're going to make up that 1% of over $800,000 is through staffing. And with that, that would probably have realized at least a good 10 or 12 additional staff, which would impact programming, which would impact the experience that our students have in the classroom. And all along, as I said in my opening, that our goal was not to do that. You know, that's not who we are. You know, in very dramatic times, if we have to, we have to. This year, we didn't have to. We were able to put the hard work in to maintain what we deliver, and that's what that would look like.
Thank you. And I think just when we spoke earlier, a couple weeks ago, you mentioned sort of evaluating cutting programming as well. So not just staff, but also extracurriculars and things like that. And I want to say that obviously quality is and excellence both are tied to what we offer, not just in the classroom, but also extracurriculars. I think that is what makes Summit so spectacular. All of my kids, all 4 of my kids have gone through Summit Public Schools. I know that the mission is, as stated, you guys are successful at it. I tell this story a lot because I think it's really important. I've got 3 kids that have gone off to college, and every single one of them, and they went to competitive academic schools, and every single one of them would call me. They called me within the first month, and they said, "Mom, we're really, really well prepared, and we're really grateful to Summit Public Schools." So for those of you who haven't heard me say it, we do have something really spectacular here, and being efficient and being fiduciarily responsible is obviously, it's a really, really hard balance. So I'm really grateful for all the hard work of the people in this room, and particularly you, Scott. So thank you for your leadership. And I think I know that it's not easy, and I know that that we don't want to cut, but we also don't want to raise people's taxes 15% every year, because people will leave, and that will also affect the quality of our education. So.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yep.
Your question made me think of another question, so I apologize. I did not preview this with Superintendent or with Kathy, so certainly fine if you wish to think about it a bit. The original draft budget that was posted on the Budget Development website anticipated a conservative 5% decrease in state aid. Picture came back slightly better, still not great, but slightly better. But we had been prepared for an increase in the tax levy as much as 5.1%. We're able to get that down. I'm wondering if you have had conversation, or if you had an idea of, if we were to hypothetically maintain at 5.17%, where would that marginal dollar go? What would be the next thing that you would wish to fund?
That is an excellent question. When we propose the budget, we get it to the point where we feel it's responsible and it's meeting our needs for the coming year. And if it didn't make that first draft, just by virtue of realizing some savings doesn't mean that we would necessarily have the need to add to that. Without going through our evaluation process for new roles or past roles or new programs or existing programs. Just by waking up and seeing the difference in the number doesn't mean, okay, we're spending, right? We do things very thoroughly. We do things that are evidence-based and database, and we would take our time to realize that. Knowing what we know now with this year going into next year, we'll run our scenarios again, and we'll be prepared again for either better or worse news.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
You talked about extending the ABA into the high school,
Yes.
and how that actually saves us money. I think this was also considered last year, but ultimately didn't make it in. But can you talk a little bit about how much we're saving as a result of that investment?
Yeah, tuition and transportation costs for an average, which there's no such thing as an average, added district placement, is anywhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 up or down. And we have 4 students who are matriculating into the high school from our ABA program at the middle school. So to send them out with transportation costs and tuition, knowing where we would send them for the various tuition schools, it would be about $850,000. So by hiring a new teacher and an aide and rolling the program up through the middle school, and these are students who will be with us till age 21. So we're not talking the next 4 years, we're talking the next 7. So you compound that and do the math over the next 7 years. By running a successful program here at Summit High School, we will be saving the taxpayers a lot of money.
Any other comments or questions from Okay. I would like to open it up to public comment. Anybody in the audience have anything to say?
I'm just going to read the rules on public comment, if you don't mind.
Just got to keep me in mind.
Here are the public comment rules. Anyone wishing to speak shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address in a clear, audible tone for the record. Please direct all comments to the board president and not an individual member of the board. Please remember to conduct yourself with decorum and respect when speaking and addressing the board. Unless additional time is granted by the board president, please be respectful and keep your comment to 3 minutes or less. In addition, please note that this portion of the meeting is for public comment and not meant to be back and forth. Upon closure of public comment, information that is available, oh, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody would like to say anything? No questions? Okay. Yeah, Mr.
Is Jim coming?
Yeah, oh, okay. Don't all jump at once.
Don't worry, I'm not Mr. Anonymous.
Not a chance.
Good enough. Yes, good evening, members of the Board of School Estimate. I'm Jim Bennett, Bennett, 38 Fairview Avenue.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your hard work on getting the increase down to 4.93%. I know that was a lot of hard work. The number I'd heard was 5.17, so again, congratulations. My remarks tonight don't really address any of the here and the now, but they're the macro national picture. And why am I taking your time on that? I think that they merit some attention for the coming year. Now, the graph that I prepared shows the median annual property tax payments in the entire United States by state. The left are the 15 lowest, and to the right, we have the 15 highest. Now, you note the very gradual projection until we come to New Jersey, and then New Jersey jumps up by 40% or nearly half again as its nearest contender, New Hampshire. Now, New Jersey also has income taxes and sales taxes, and New Hampshire has neither a personal income tax nor a general sales tax, and still manages to be lower. And among the top 15 states, neither Alaska nor Texas either has a personal income tax, nor does Washington at the moment, but is about to get one. Oregon has no general sales tax. Among the bottom 15, Tennessee and Wyoming have no personal income tax, and Delaware has no general sales tax. Median national annual property tax is about $3,000. But the median tax rate for New Jersey, by some accounts, is $9,358, and Summit residents would be happy to have that median rate. Now, 3 years ago, the annual property tax bill in Summit was, per house, $18,357, and the average would be higher because we have some very big and expensive houses in Summit. And the school district owns much of that number because its tax constitutes more than half of the property tax bill. Now, I really do appreciate tonight that you have to deal with the here and the now and not with the macro situation. But the questions that need to be asked over the coming year is, how do other states manage to keep their property taxes lower? And what do Summit schools provide that other states' school systems do not? So do New Jersey schools get the results that are over 6 times better than Tennessee's? And do Summit schools get a result that's 12 times better? Now, this exercise of a adjusted comparative analysis is thinking outside the New Jersey box, but it could be instructive, and the results could be actionable through this board at the state level. Thank you. I'll give you that.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Come on.
I'm not going to talk about taxes in other states, except to say that we have the #2 state in the nation for education, and I'm happy for that. So Mayor Fagan, it was great to hear about your kids doing so well. I think that we all agree that we should preserve that kind of schooling. And before I get into what I want to talk about, is all our IT only in the middle school, or do we have a backup? And if we don't, we should look into a backup. And I agree with what Ms. Kelly said about AI use. There's studies coming out of Stanford and a bunch of other places that suggest that AI stifles creativity and critical thinking, and we need to understand that better. You talked about the mission, to prepare all students. And you talked about how we have essentially 3 stools: academics, athletics, and the arts. And I, for one, am thankful for the academics, for the athletics, and for the arts. My kids partake in all 3 of them in various capacities. But I want to go back to last year's cuts. $3.3 million. They impacted entirely academics and the arts. Specifically, we cut 27 teachers and classroom staff, the district mental health clinician, a school counselor, 4 technology coaches, library aides, weekday PSAT testing, and summer school. So I think that we can think that perhaps voters chose in November that aggressive cutting of academics was not in their best interest. Summit is known for proximity to New York, a good downtown in our schools, and I would submit to you that what anchors our property taxes is our schools. We have concerns about ratables going down, much as 2 years ago they were going up. And so we do need to be fiscally responsible, but we do need to make sure that we fund our schools, the academic portion and the arts portion, as fully as we have been funding the athletics portion so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hook.
Hi, Carol Pack-Tang, 234 Summit Avenue. So I'm glad to hear, my voice is loud. I'm glad to hear that the PSATs are put back in, but I had that same question Councilwoman Saracena had about if we were already budgeting for a 5% decrease, and we should be, honestly, glad that we got only the 3% decrease, then I'm like thinking, okay, well, so we already planned for this 5% decrease, and in an awkward way, there's some cost savings there that we could look at spending, actually, in a year that we kind of, the Summit residents were already expecting a 5.1% tax levy increase, which is, as has been discussed, under the adjusted cap, so then doesn't need to go through an additional reapproval process. I can think of a lot of things that, for example, we invested both at the middle school and the high school in a room to have a dance course offered. We had this wonderful play this past weekend of Matilda at the middle school. We had Big Fish a couple weeks ago, and these are I'm proud to say, our middle and high school are one of the most awarded theater programs in the state. This is one of the differentiating factors that we can be very proud of in Summit. However, the arts program is significantly underfunded, mostly self-funds, and in addition to that, people were very excited that dance was going to be a possible offering. at the middle and high school with this infrastructure. So we spent money on infrastructure that is being unused and untapped. I know that last year they were trying to find a dance teacher, couldn't. I can tell you there's plenty of dance folks around here that would love to have a job at Summit High School. So I think that in addition to that, looking at this tuition-based, I understand it's a solution that you guys had, that other schools are using, the tuition-based summer school, but to me that causes an access issue yet again. These kids, like, yes, people at the top that can afford it and that their kids need it, they're gonna pay whatever it takes. People under the free and reduced lunch that are gonna get the discount, they too are going to get taken care of. But yet again, the people that are in the middle income in this town that are already looking at an increase regardless, based on their home values, I mean, $344 for an average of $250K value home in Summit. Most of the homes in Summit are $1 million plus, right? And so you're talking about these, and these are families that have bought and invested in Summit, and are gonna already have their tax increases. And so now in addition to that, if their kid needs summer school, they're gonna have to pay an additional $300 to $400 in a year where we know that gas prices and food grocery prices are going through the roof. To me, that's an access issue. If I were to be looking at this and talking about where could we have used that difference, that delta of the 2% decrease that we were expecting and had the money for, like, I would be looking at summer school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Do I have a motion to close public comments?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll take the roll
Oh, sorry.
for that, to close public comment.
Pub-
Sorry. To close public comment. Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Lesser Ursina?
Aye.
Ms. Cohn? Ms. Cohn, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
She said aye.
Aye, okay. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
Mayor Fagan?
Aye.
Okay.
Now may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we close at 6:47. Thank you.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone, to the March 18, 2026 Summit Board of Education meeting. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. Notices announcing the date, time, and place for the special meeting were sent to all concerned individuals, associations, and posted on the district website in accordance with Public Law 2025, Chapter 72. At this time, I'd like to take the roll. Ms. Cohn?
Ms. Cohn, we're looking for a roll call.
Okay, please don't need me as you're on my end, but I am here.
Okay. Vice President Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Cho? Mr. Gunderson? Mr. Hanley?
Here.
Ms. Justice? Here. Mr. Maecha? Okay, we have quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mrs. Sarno. Before we begin the annual school budget discussion for the board, I want to just take a few minutes on behalf of the entire board and once again echo all of the appreciation we have for Superintendent Scott Huff, the business office, particularly Kathy Sarno, the principals, the administration, and really the staff throughout the district who spent countless amount of hours with rigor and diligence as they do every year. It is a really tremendous partnership for the board, the mayor, the city, and the district to work alongside the students and staff, the students and parents to really come up with a budget that is appropriate and affordable for the entire community. I also want to just mention to the board that 4.93%, as you all know, represents a lot of diligence that the ops committee in particular, working with the business office and the superintendent, took really great. I think we had great efforts in establishing a strong process that will be a foundation for years to come in an economic environment that continues to be really difficult to maneuver, and particularly with still inflation occurring, and of course, as has been mentioned countless times, the health and benefit increases that we've seen. But the 4.93% tonight continues to really drive an output of excellence in this district. It really highlights our strategic goals. We had to do a lot of prioritization. I think we did that under Superintendent Scott Huff's leadership really well this year. So I'm going to hand it off to Rick Hanley, Ops Chair, and I want to congratulate Rick for really being an absolute amazing leader, and I appreciate all of the momentum that you brought to the Ops Committee this year. He's going to echo some of Superintendent Scott Huff's presentation as well as share some more details for added transparency. So over to you.
Well, thank you, Madam Vice President. I appreciate the nice comments, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to report that the Operations Committee of the Summit Public Schools District did hold its most recent meeting Monday, March 16th. The meeting was held at the district administrative offices, and we began it at 9:30 a.m. The meeting lasted approximately 45 minutes. Attending the meeting were Superintendent Scott Huff, Assistant Business Administrator Kathy Sarno, myself, Carlos Mahecha, and Eileen Kelly representing the board. During the meeting, the committee was dedicated to reviewing and discussing the two key components of data that came in that we were waiting on for the budget, and they include numbers that you've heard about that I will highlight again. Number one, the final budget number for healthcare services and premiums collectively, which was originally projected to be up 19% in our budget, came in up 16.1%. That is obviously slightly better. The final projection for state aid came in at -3%, a decline that was slightly less than we had forecasted, down 5%. Recall that prior to this committee meeting, our last official estimate of growth in the total budget, and that is growth in the total budget, of 5.17%, and dependent upon the aid and healthcare outcomes. As a result of these numbers coming in slightly better, as we've discussed, we did, as a committee in this meeting, vote unanimously to approve growth in the district budget for the upcoming 2026-27 school year of $3.7 million, representing a 4.93% increase over last year's fiscal budget. As Scott mentioned in his presentation, the board and the committee have spent numerous hours ensuring that his budget and this district's budget aligns closely with our goals established by the focus groups and the ongoing communications between the superintendent, the administration, the community, the staff, and our leaders that was generated during our strategy and focus groups. This budget delivers a financially sustainable and high quality and extremely broad product offering for all families and children to take advantage of. And this committee made sure that the superintendent's proposed budget continued to focus our investments and our financial evaluations of our investments on delivering great student outcomes that Summit has historically been known to deliver and that we expect in the future. The community and especially the board's confidence in this budget process should be high. As the Operations Committee worked tirelessly, spending almost 25 hours in committee meetings in the past 9 to 10 months, and added additional countless hours of work by individuals through the work the committee, and even more importantly, the superintendent, the business administrator's office, the supervisors, our principals, our staff. They worked so hard. They came through, worked tirelessly on a new budget process, and they really committed to several steps and really came through with flying colors. As a result of their efforts, this board and our committee committed in May of 2025 and into June when we reported out our post-mortem budget review of last year's budget. We committed to conducting and reviewing detailed budgets of comparable districts and their historic spending and investment patterns to better understand the district's challenges, our goals, their goals, and how we stack up. The Business Administrator's Office then constructed multi-year budget forecasts for better financial and CapEx planning and stress testing that helped us to better prepare for the external shocks and factors that impact our budget that are clearly out of our control that we've discussed in such detail already tonight. We've deployed zero-based budgeting and contingency planning into the budget process and accelerated the pace of the budget schedule and data gathering that did put more demands on our staff. Given this accelerated calendar and process, our goal was to have a stronger picture of our overall financial outlook in February that could lead to better, more frequent communications to the community and city leaders to further educate the community and respond where possible to your questions and your concerns, including those expressed tonight. So for these reasons, we can believe we've conducted the proper supervisory oversight on this budget as a committee. And the superintendent, we believe we have great confidence that he has delivered a very responsible budget and one that adheres to the objectives and the goals of Summit and the community for the years to come. So, with that said, I will only add one additional note. The Operations Committee also reviewed in this meeting the proposal by the administration to withdraw $850,000 from the capital reserve for the following allocation of projects, and they were highlighted briefly earlier tonight. There's $100,000 for architect and engineering fees for district-wide projects in the coming year. There's $150,000 to replace the hot water heater at Summit High School, and there's $600,000 to replace the generator at LCJ SMS. So there is also a $50,000 maintenance reserve allocation that we approved, and that is for spending on the LCJ SMS VCT replacement. So the committee voted unanimously on these two items, the maintenance reserve allocation and the capital reserve allocation. We voted unanimously to recommend that the full board also approve these items. So with that, I'm going to stop there and stop highlighting what's in this budget and not. There has been extensive review of the details of the various categories of the budget that have been read out throughout the committee notes throughout the year that the public should feel free to reference because there's a lot of detail in there, but I can certainly come back to that in Q&A tonight if that's necessary. Other than that, are there any other additional items from members of the committee that you think we should add?
Thank you, Chairman Hanley. I do have a statement to make. And As a member of the Operations Committee, I want to thank the administration, Superintendent Huff, Assistant Business Administrator Ms. Kathy Sarno, Operations Committee Chairman Rick Hanley, and fellow committee member Ms. Eileen Kelly for the hard work that brought our final fiscal 27 tax levy increase down to 4.93%. That is a meaningful improvement from the draft numbers we saw earlier. Even so, one line item continues to dominate our budget pressure: health insurance. This year, shift premiums, as we've heard, rose 6.1%, adding over $2.5 million to our costs. That single increase is responsible for the vast majority of the amount we had to go to above the 2% levy cap. Without it, we would have been much closer to the state mandated limit. Let's remember, there is a state mandated limit, right? There's a law. We don't just choose it. So I thought there was a lot of great work that went to get us to where we need to be and still delivering what needs to be delivered to our customers, which are our students. Looking ahead, the same double-digit pressure is already built into future years unless we act. New Jersey State Law Chapter 44's temporary contribution relief expires at the end of 2027. That creates a real opportunity in the coming years to make structural changes that put our healthcare plan on a more sustainable path. These changes are essential if we want to protect classroom programs, keep class sizes reasonable, and ease the burden on some taxpayers for years to come. I encourage everyone in the community to pay close attention to how we manage health costs in the years ahead. Your understanding and support will be critical as we work to keep future tax increases in check while still delivering for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macha. Is there any other discussion from the board? I do think it's important to highlight this question because it came up during a parent coffee last week regarding the budget, healthcare obviously being the biggest expenditure that's gone up, is what our options are. We are in a consortium called SHIFT, and maybe Mr. Hanley and Mr. Huff, Superintendent Huff, excuse me, we could re-highlight that, the landscape of not just this year, but the years to come as it relates to our insurance options.
On the healthcare front, yes. So number one, the national industry trends are important. There's pressing healthcare premiums, prescription costs are going upwards. It's not likely to abate. I read this out in our December meeting on December 18th. Number two, Summit Schools is participating in this healthcare premium pressure in our prescriptions. For history, we'll touch on, and I'll be very brief. In I think it was 2010, Chapter 78 was enacted. That gave us legal ability to negotiate higher contributions to healthcare. However, that legislation was reversed in 2022 by Chapter 44. Now, by state law, the employees contribute less and less to their total contribution of healthcare. Therefore, the district is required to pay more. In that same law, Chapter 44, it eliminated our ability in many cases, not entirely, but in most cases, it eliminated our ability to negotiate through collective bargaining any changes in healthcare that would be around prescription copays, emergency room copays, et cetera. There was no, they took the state by law, took away all flexibility in the negotiating process between the district and its staff. That was new, by the way. So the factors, those are key factors that have changed in healthcare. In addition, in December, I read out some key fundamental trends. GLP-1 drugs are now 20% of all prescriptions in a few short years. They have no competition from generics. They're getting broader applications through AI technology, and they're being applied to more and more to diseases. And as a result, we're seeing huge pressures with no ability to find relief in prescription costs. And so you're seeing many districts up 35 to 55% in their prescription costs. So you're seeing it across the country, you're seeing it in the state of New Jersey, and you're seeing it here. And that is not going to abate anytime soon because those drugs are simply new on the horizon and going to continue to grow in terms of their applications. So these are a number of the fundamental pressures that we see. There's a number of healthcare pressures in terms of experiences post-COVID and the hangover of health. The public postponed a lot of their tests, so they were not getting colonoscopies, they weren't getting different kinds of screenings, and so they postponed it, and now the treatments are costing more to catch up because the treatments are more invasive, et cetera. So these trends we see in our pressures in healthcare. I fundamentally do not see any changes coming anytime soon. As a result, though, we do change, or we look for competitive bidding in healthcare, and it's important. A slide earlier tonight noted that we changed our healthcare provider in July of 2022, and again we changed a healthcare provider in the summer of 2017. So we have to be very cognizant of changing healthcare providers to seek a better and more competitive rate in the short term, while disadvantaging our staff and our employees by constantly changing programs. So we're very cautious and cognizant of the pressures that puts on our working families in the district who serve in our staff in their capacities. So those are a lot of the pressures that we highlighted that are not going away, that I hope gives some color as to these pressures in healthcare that we're just going to continue to see. And as we represented, healthcare was 3%, 2.88% of our total 4.93% increase. So, and for that matter, I would go forward and say, and then I'll stop talking, I do think it's important to start dispelling the use of 2% budget cap and our measurements of whether our budgets are successful or not. In 2007, it was 4% by law. It was lowered by 2010 to 2% cap by law. Inflation subsequent years, you can see 1.3, 1.7, 1.2, 1.9. You see a lot of low inflation years. The last time we had inflation below 2020, as measured by CPI in this country, 2020. The next year, 7%. The next year, it just keeps going. It's been up significantly, 7%, 6.5%, 3.4%. This past year, 2024, last year, 2.9%. So to think that we as a district can get anywhere close to 2% increases, those days are gone. So I want to make sure that's fairly clear to the community as you start thinking about our challenges going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Superintendent Huff, do you want anything? I know Mr. Hanley's over.
I'll just close by, personally and on behalf of the administration, the parents, the community, the staff, I thank everybody involved in creating this budget. You've heard so much detail around the efforts that go into it, the challenges, and the bottom line is student outcomes. And we're going to maintain and continue to grow in that area with this budget and future budgets because we have the right people in place to develop the budget and apply the budget in the classroom. So thank you all for your efforts. One last thing, the next part of the process is that this budget will be sent down to the county as soon as closed and we adjourn at this meeting. They will review it in the coming days. We will return here at 6 o'clock on March 26th for the final budget hearing. The final budget will be approved by the Board of Education as well as the Board of School Estimates.
Thank you, Superintendent Scott Huff. Last call for any other discussion among board members. Okay.
I do have one question for Ms. Sarno. The difference in dollar value between 5.17 and 4.93?
It's 100,000 approximately.
Okay, so that was the incremental difference. Mr. Huff, I think it would be instructive to talk about the fact that we did not actually take all the differential that we gained between state aid wins, theoretically, in the community's view tonight, and the healthcare wins in lower numbers.
Certainly. The delta between the 5% state aid that we budgeted for and the 3% actual decrease was about $103,000. Within that, we realized the money that was needed to return to PSAT. That allowed us to return to PSATs, and it also allowed us to fund a student who was in our budget software required by the state. Okay, so that was approximately over $30,000 of that $100,000 that was used and applied back into the operating budget for the PSAT and a required tuition for the student.
So I think for the BOSE question, I think it's fair to say we have that list that she was asking about of things we could go, what would we do next? And we did some of those given the advantages that we were provided by the outcome.
Yes, we used the remaining $70,000 or so for tax relief.
Okay, we will now move on to, there's going to be public comment. We're going to move on to public comment now. Ms. Sarno will read the.
Absolutely. Some public comment rules. Anyone wishing to speak shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address in a clear, audible tone for the record. Please direct all comments to the board president and not an individual member of the board. Please remember to conduct yourself with decorum and respect when speaking and addressing the board. Unless additional time is granted by the board president, please be respectful and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. In addition, please note that this portion of the meeting is for public comment and not meant to be back and forth. Thank you.
So I understand it's not back and forth, but I was surprised by the proportion of the insurance and pharmaceuticals cost that's coming from GLP-1s. And I guess it's probably not a bad thing that there's been some negotiations down on the price of GLP-1s coming up in the next year. So hopefully we can take some of those savings. The other thing I'll point out is that there's a lot of talk about property taxes in New Jersey, but we don't talk about the cost of homeowners insurance. I was doing some work for something else, and it turns out if you look at Florida, for example, and you compare it to New Jersey, and you add up property taxes and homeowners insurance, you end up pretty much at the same point. It's just that we pay more in property taxes and they pay more to the insurance companies. And we're talking about, it's been 15 maybe years since a Category 4 or 5 hurricane hit Miami-Dade County. And so insurance rates in Florida have been adjusted for the Gulf Coast a lot more than for the Atlantic Coast, because, you know, people seem to forget that hurricanes do hit the east coast of Florida, Cuba, all those places. So perhaps we need to look at the overall cost of ownership. I also would like to remind everybody of the numbers I rattled off earlier. 27 teachers and classroom staff, mental health clinician, school counselor, 4 technology coaches, library aides. These are all significant human resources that were cut last year. And I understand that this is not the year to put them back in. I totally get that. But I cannot possibly imagine that we are better off now without those resources than we were before with those resources. So as we look into the years to come, I think we need to draw a path that takes us from here to there. We're a very diverse district. We have homes that are worth $5 million. We have homes that are worth $250,000 or $300,000. We have people who make millions upon millions and never fly commercial, and we have people who have never left the state of New Jersey. We have people who, we have one school in particular, as you all probably know, for which 25% of the student body qualifies for reduced and free lunches. And I think that we do need to keep that in mind as we develop our plans. And also keep in mind that, you know, depending on what lifestyle, what stage of your life you might be in, people who come into Summit tend to be people who have young kids who want their kids to be participants in a Summit education and not have that education cut by whatever is, you know, make it less diverse, make it less inclusionary, make it less equitable. Thank you.
Any more public comment?
Yes, good evening, members of the Board of Education. Jim Bennett, BENNETT, 38 Fairview Avenue. Mr. Hanley anticipated my next comment. I want to respond to the speaker who suggested that because of a perceived windfall from the delta between the 5.17%, which was the figure we were operating on last week, and the 4.93%, that the delta should be spent for more programs. And I commend the Operations Committee for the hard work they did in getting the rate down. And I say this as one who wants to have excellent public school systems in Summit, even though my kids have long since departed. So I just wanted to leave with the thought of urging the board to hold the line at 4.93% of an increase. Thank you.
Carol Pactang, 234 Summit Avenue. I'm an emergency physician. I'm also a physician that advocates and lobbies as just a physician that's involved in the healthcare system. And the comment that Ozempic is the reason that the cost of the healthcare for the teachers went up, I think is offensive, not true. The healthcare costs are going up because we decided in 2022, and at the urge of the teachers' unions, that the healthcare, our school district wasn't being competitive with the amount of healthcare we were delivering. That was part of the contracts our teachers were getting. We were getting better retention and recruitment of teachers because we were providing a higher level of healthcare. I am in support of any tax increases to cover adequate healthcare for our teachers, because that's how we retain excellent teachers in our district, and that they don't use us as a stepping stone to a better job. The reason that healthcare costs are going up across the board is because healthcare is pocketing more of that money for themselves, and they are doing a vertical integration and keeping a lot of those costs. So the PBMs and all these things, yes, the cost of pharmaceuticals are going up is because the pharmaceutical companies are keeping a lot of the revenue in their pockets. So, I mean, I don't think we can point to the fact that teachers and people are taking Ozempic more. I think that's just a poor correlation to be brought up at this type of meeting. In terms of the comment on the budget being done with the parents and student community's input, I honestly, I think part of it is that, so I'm helping to reinvigorate Speak Up Summit, which was a parent and community group that understand that the quality of our town and the value of our town is highly based in the quality of our school district. And we all hear all of you, you're providing an amazing service, and I can thank you for that. But I think that there could be a lot more efforts to have the parent input be a part of this continued budget conversation, especially I think it was a wake-up call to many of us with the cuts at the end of last year, that we really need to engage, and I'm putting that on myself as someone who is starting to help reinvigorate this, so that you all have a way to communicate to us, and we have a way to communicate to the rest of the community, both the parent and the business community that's very invested in this town. But I encourage you guys to have more of these coffees that you had the other day. It was literally my birthday, so I wasn't gonna come have coffee with you on my birthday, but I think the more number of times you put out communications, even highly invested people that are helping me to reinvigorate this group of Speak Up Summit didn't know that the budget meeting was tonight. So our communications, I know you guys are putting them out there. They need to be pushed out, like so many more with all the noise that we're getting. So I just encourage you guys in the coming year to reach out even more and put it on us as well as parents. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Kathy, do you need a motion to close public comment?
Yes, please.
Can I please have a motion to close public comment?
Roll call, Mr. Maracha? Yes. Ms. Justice? Yes. Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
And Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
Public comment is closed. And now at this time, I'm going to read the school budget resolution for
Kathy, before, just because it was the end of public comment, I think some of the comments made during this meeting would probably be helpful for us to just touch upon a little bit. I just want to highlight all the different ways from a communication standpoint that we did reach out to the public, just to reemphasize once again. I think we can't say it enough. So We do have, obviously, at every board meeting since October, we've brought up the budget, and we hope that, more parents do come out to board meetings because it is an opportunity for public comment to hear from the public, clearly on parents and residents and otherwise on what's important to them and what they're thinking. So every board meeting is certainly an opportunity. Superintendent Scott Huff has spent a tremendous amount of PTO meetings. I think last week 25 parents attended. So him and his staff, I just want to commend on how excellent their communication is. Their infographics, they've been so thoughtful this entire budgetary process. And Scott, I know I hear such positive remarks about how willing and consistent you are with your engagement with the residents and with the students and parents of our district. And then Coffee with Parents, we do try one a quarter, so we will certainly, we can try for more than that. We did a morning, we did a night. I'm a working mom as well, so we all do what we can. But I really do think we've made a valiant effort to communicate and be really transparent on this process. But certainly if anyone has any ideas, I'm happy at the end of this meeting to be open to more ways on how we can improve on that communication. The other thing I just want to also really mention about the budget as a whole, we are adding $3.7 million this year. This is a growth budget because it's going up, and I appreciate that some people in the community, some residents, have the ability to spend $300 easily a year. There are other residents that don't, and I treat every single dollar that goes into this budget as if it were my own. And I know there are a lot of residents that have $500 a year is a lot for them. So it is a really important balance to strike. We talk about equity, talk about access. There are a lot of people in this community where $500 is a lot of money a year. So I think this strikes the right balance, and we've done a lot of diligence to look at really what are the priorities that we have, and then how do we meet those priorities? Where are things not making sense because maybe that class is no longer relevant, right? So I think Superintendent Scott Huff and his expertise with his staff, his principals, they do the hard effort to make sure that our outcomes remain consistent and that each year we are striking that right balance. So again, I want to commend you, Superintendent Scott Huff, because this was a budget of $3.7 million added, a taxpayer increase of about $400 annually per household, and that's going to be reflective again of continued strong outcomes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now for the approval of the 2026-2027 school budget resolution. Resolved that the tentative budget be approved for the 2026-2027 school year and sent to the Executive County Superintendent of Schools in accordance with the statutory deadline for review and approval. For 2026-2027 total expenditures under the general fund, $89,672,896, plus special revenues, $838,949, for a total of $90,511,845. Less anticipated revenues under the general fund of $9,799,533. With that, special revenues, $838,949, for a total of $10,638,482. For the local tax levy to be raised of a total of $79,873,363. And to advertise said tentative budget in accordance with the form suggested by the State Department of Education and according to law. Further resolved that the public hearing be held in the Summit High School Library Media Center on Thursday, March 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the budget for the 2026-27 school year. Further resolved that included in the general fund appropriations, the Summit City Board of Education authorized the approval of withdrawal from capital reserve in the amount of $850,000 as follows. $600,000 LCJ Summit Middle School new generator, $150,000 Summit High School hot water heater, $100,000 architect/engineering fees for district-wide projects. Further resolved that per NJAC 6A23A-14.2D, included in the general fund appropriations, the Summit City Board of Education authorized the approval of withdrawal from maintenance reserve in the amount of $50,000 for the LCJ Summit Middle School VCT replacement. And further resolved that the Summit Board of Education includes the tentative budget, the adjustment for increased costs of health benefits, an amount of $2,227,161. The additional funds will be used to pay for the additional increases in health benefit premiums. Note figures subject to change up to the time of adoption of this resolution should there be any changes in stated figures or other adjustments by the state. And our approval of travel and related expenditures reimbursement for 2026-27, whereas pursuant to NJAC 6A23:A-7.3, a Board of Education must establish a maximum dollar amount for travel expenditure as defined in NJAC 6A:23A-7.1. Be it resolved that the Summit Board of Education approves establishing the maximum expenditure for the 2026-27 school year not to exceed $1,500 for regular travel pursuant to policy number 6471. And further, it be resolved that the Summit Board of Education approves establishing a maximum travel expenditure of $200,000 for the 26-27 school year. The maximum travel expenditure for the 25-26 school year is $200,000, of which $34,392 has been spent and $5,586 is encumbered to date. There you go.
You deserve a round of applause for reading all of that. Very well. Do I have a motion to approve everything Ms.
So
Kathy
moved.
Sarno just said?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
Mr. Maicha? Ms. Justice? Vice President Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Combs?
Yes.
Okay. Motion's carried.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we close our meeting at 7:25 p.m. Thank you.